Okay. Uh, First of all, Maria, thank you very much for organizing that meeting. It's a very good initiative. And to discuss those issues, I would like also to thank Michalis, and I would like to tell to the others that Michalis made the presentation where everything was there. I mean, all the documents from the European Commission, all the important, actions and activities. And somehow, Michali, we must gather all those documents in one place to be available to all the people. This is work that we'll do in the lab, and make available at least internally at Forth to have access to those documents. Thanks also for addressing some of the very important issues. And here I will try to make a presentation as Maria asked me. First of all, to make a little story how we created the Faith Project. Then to describe a little bit the Faith Project and what is doing. And finally, to present, the tools that we have available today and might be used by others in terms of trustworthiness. Speaking briefly, the Faith Project is, a methodology, let's say, or a framework where we're using a risk-based approach to evaluate trustworthiness of existing systems, AI systems, including also the humans that very correctly were mentioned by Michalis. Starting, the little story that I have to present to you, I'm starting from who we are. Actually, we are a very active team called MedLab, located in Ioannina, with research on biomedical informatics. You can see that we're around 70 people, more than 70 now in the lab, with a lot of funding coming from the European Commission mainly, but also for critical organizations, and also private sectors. We have now 3, not 2 anymore, startups, all of them having AI involved in the medical products, because we're doing biomedical informatics, and also who are hosting one of the largest journals in biomedical informatics, dealing also with AI systems, the Journal of Biomedical Health Informatics. And I was happy that I heard this question by Anna asking about the proposals, but we are very skeptical about the use of AI in writing papers, but not only writing papers, but also reviewing papers, which is much worse. For a publisher, this is a very critical item that we have to take always into account. How we started Faith. Faith, there was a call by Horizon in the CL4, Cluster 4 on human, and actually the call was about large-scale pilots on trustworthy AI data and robotics, addressing also key societal challenges. The idea, and this is how we worked on that, is that there was an assessment framework by NIST. NIST is an American organization, it's not a European organization. And actually this framework provides some guidelines on how you can consider if a system is trustworthy or not based on risks. This was accompanied by several documents by ENISA, and then we decided to frame this idea in order to implement a human-centric trustworthiness assessment framework that will be tested in 7 large-scale pilots from different domains. That also was very important because you are looking something with a general application. We submitted that on March 23, and we started the project that was successful on the beginning of January 24. The date here is wrong. Actually, we started it a little bit, a year ago. And this project, is a project that basically is based, on documents that provide guidelines and requirements for AI trustworthiness, among those the EU AI Act, the White House blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, the one by Biden that, it's very easy to be changed, as always we comment on that, OECD documents, the framework, the AI framework provided by NIST, and also on some work that we have done before, which is based as a checklist and that you can find on the web, the future AI, that were strongly involved. Also, there was a follow-up report by ENISA, which provides detailed analysis of threats, because I mentioned that we're trying, let's say, to do the approach through the risk approach. And actually, when you speak about ENISA and NIST, you can imagine that we have security organizations in front of us. So there is a lot of background coming from cybersecurity and all those things, but we tend to adapt this to a new framework. All those are fragmented approaches, and we wanted to present a systematic approach to shift the current AI paradigm toward trustworthiness. Basically, this is the idea and the challenge behind us. Take all of those, make a new framework that will be very useful for those developing or using AI applications, and this is something that we'll discuss. Of course, the vision behind faith, which is very, very important, is that we like to provide the stakeholders of AI, any from developers, researchers, system developers, companies, users, with a comprehensive analysis of the foundations of AI trustworthiness, then to apply this in 7 specific sectors and see how each pilot reacts to this framework, and then to provide, let's say, something that was mentioned in the previous talk, societal awareness around the consequences of AI misuse. So if you have a risk approach, you start from threats, you measure the risks, and then you can see the impact and the consequences of the risks. Actually, this is the way that we're going, because we were planning to adopt a dynamic risk management approach, following, all the guidelines that I presented before. Finally, to provide with an operational playbook in order to assess and build trustworthy, plus assessing existing ones, and to continuously measure trustworthiness, because even if you have a trustworthy system, you might change something and then it's not anymore trustworthy. And of course, then there were some underexplored topics for trustworthy real-world AI systems that we wanted to focus on that. So 6, let's say, parts of our vision that's very broad, as you can see from for the FAITH project. Finally, we ended up to be 18 partners from different countries, being a research development, technical innovation, benefits realizations, user needs and pilots, and actually we have a very good group of people, all over Europe, and we're trying to bring together knowledge and trustworthy. The challenges now, first of all, is to define what constitutes a trustworthy AI system. You have seen the dimensions of a trustworthy AI systems, more or less are known, but we wanted to see that from a socio-technical point of view. Then, to see the most appropriate domains. Okay, within the 7 LSPs, but how the large-scale pilots, how do you move to another area, what should be changed, and all this stuff. And also to identify the human characteristics that contribute to the evolution of trustworthiness of an AI system, which is very important, is the other dimension, and of course how to evaluate the levels of trustworthiness and the effective approaches for optimization, if any, of trustworthiness of AI systems. If you like to see the components, we wanted to build the trustworthiness assessment framework. So what we're building basically, this is the core objective of faith, is to build a trustworthy assessment framework. We call it TAF, which is human-centered, is associated with risks, as I mentioned before, and risks sometimes are mixed, with impacts in critical domains. And that was one of the main problems that we faced in the first, let's say, period of the project, because we have different views. The users that understand the risks as impacts, and us that we understand the risks starting from threats. What are the components of the TAF? First of all, we are based that on the risk management framework provided by NIST. It's general, not trustworthiness. It's artificial intelligence. Then how we involve, let's say, and we engage the users and the stakeholders, the humans. We're using the NISA guidelines, how to achieve trustworthiness by design, which is something very important also, and also the legislative instruments that are coming from the European Commission. And also we are always updated about the standards. So Faith TAF is a framework which is based on risks. It's a risk-based approach. And actually, if you like to see the trustworthiness roadmap of faith, you can see that we identify the necessity of trustworthy AI. We are trying to expand the efforts, in the life cycle of AI systems, especially for testing, evaluation, validation, and verification. We have created the TAF framework, and then we're trying to exploit and understand the trade-offs and relationships among trustworthy characteristics, set up the case studies, to develop specific profiles for the TAF, to measure the effectiveness of the TAF, and actually to provide guidance on AI risk management, and finally to test the AI trustworthiness in real-world AI systems. RMF means here risk management framework, that comes as a terminology from NIST, the American organization. Actually, we identify threats. We identified vulnerabilities, which are not only technical, but also social and human. We evaluate the risks, and we select mitigation actions. This is the path that we're following. Compliance with us is with all those ISOs that you can see here, and we're starting, as I mentioned before, from the cybersecurity or security ISOs, like the ISO 27001 or 27005, which goes closer to GDPR. And then, in order to apply this TAF methodology, we're using a 6-phase approach. The cartography of the system, where we're describing the system with the assets, we're doing the threat analysis, we're doing the impact assessment, we're doing the vulnerability analysis, then we calculate the risks, and then we provide the mitigation actions or the countermeasures for the system under discussion. Again, you can see on the left, the 6 phases, then what actually we're doing in order to fulfill this phase, especially for cartography. We identify assets and user models of the system, and we identify the user profiles. We analyze the technical AI trustworthy threats in the second phase, and then we are adding, in the vulnerability analysis, the human vulnerabilities. But also in the phase 2, we analyze the social threats. Finally, we're doing with a tool that we have the risk values, and we propose those mitigation plans at the end. So this is what is TAF, is a methodology. Plus, we have some tools in order to do that methodology. But of course, you have to understand that TAF applies in different AI lifecycle phases. Because if you have a system, you design and develop it. You need it to make trustworthy. So this phase contains, whatever is related to data collection, data cleaning, data processing, model design and implementation, model training. And then you have another testing that also affects the trustworthiness of the system is the testing, the optimization, the model evaluation. And finally, what you have a system in production, which includes the model deployment, the monitoring and inference. So you have all those three life cycle phases, and always you have to have a life cycle and pay attention to that. So we're starting by a trustworthy by design system at the beginning, and we're moving across all those phases. And especially for the healthcare sector, if you're going to production, then there are coming new data, there are coming new claims, there are coming new facts and new knowledge, and the system changes. And you have to go back from the beginning, especially for regulatory purposes, and actually to get whatever is needed to have something on the market. And in order to do that, we have created some supporting tools. We have the Trust Guard of Faith, which is a checklist-based risk assessment for AI-based systems in isolation. Please keep this in isolation because I will use another terminology to describe what systems do we have today. Then we have the Trust Sense, which profiles the trustworthiness of the AI participant. So we have the humans participating. And finally, we have the Model Hub, which is a metadata collection repository for AI models and data sets. And actually, we integrate here the AI model passport and the data passport, which is something very useful, and I'll explain what is that. We have some tools acting as mitigation measures for specific trustworthy characteristics. The DBTM, which is database assessment related to fairness, the Mandala tool for model bias assessment, again for fairness, the SDG, the synthetic data generation for privacy and fairness, the DPA, the data privacy assessment for privacy, the UPRI-PROB-E for uncertainty codification for the valid and reliable part of a system. As you can see, we don't have only the faith tools, but also some other tools, the three faith tools, but some other tools that you can use in order to resolve problems that come from non-existing trustworthiness analysis. The most important tool is the faith knowledge base. Here, for systems in general, we're collecting threats, the AI lifecycle phases, the AI assets, the vulnerabilities, the controls, which is a checklist-based question generated by the control measures, and the trustworthy AI characteristics that are known. And so this is based on the initial reports. And actually, the initial reports condense threats for all AI systems mapped in the different stages of the AI lifecycle development that I mentioned, mapped with diverse assets associated with vulnerabilities and also control measures. So this is like a huge knowledge base that contains all those relations. How we are building, let's say, the risk assessment, the trustworthiness risk assessment for systems in isolation. Here for the in isolation terminology is a system that it works by itself. There are also systems in context that work, in cooperation with other systems. And this is another approach that will follow in the future. For the time, we're using the initial NIST standards, and we're using also input from stakeholders, trust personas, and this goes to the Faith AI TAF. Then we assessed the system under test, the suit as we call AI suit system, for trustworthiness current status. We're creating the repository. We are getting domain-specific profiles, and then we are producing the risk management approach for that system. And then, finally, this system produces the risks. And this is how it goes. And if you are speaking about risks, finally you can have impacts and consequences of the system. Actually, in order to feed that system with information, we were based on the risk assessor. The risk assessor is a very common terminology coming usually from security ISOs. You have someone in your organization with knowledge of the system and the risks. And actually, then you can see the whole workflow that we're presenting here, that was presented in the previous slide, but finally, we have as an output the risk assessment and mitigation actions. Here there are owners, there are control questions, there are asset questions, and all the stuff that you have to implement. But finally, through our tool, you can get the risk assessment and mitigation actions. The Trust Guard, is one of the tools that we have developed. You can see screens on the right. And actually, here we have the risk assessor, again, answers some questions. The AI system description and also the owner trustworthiness level is provided to that. So this makes a trustworthiness assessment and provides risk assessment and mitigation actions. This is the first tool that I'm presenting. The trust sense is a system that measures the trustworthiness traits in terms of responsibility and ethics, innovation and adaptability, collaboration, resilience, integrity, capability, motivation and commitment, and also policies. This is based on questionnaires and produces the human level and a factor that is introduced in our risk system as a multiplier, a tabular multiplier of what we're producing for the risks. And of course, we have the AI Model Hub, which is actually a hub where we have, let's say, all the information about the AI models. And actually, in order to do that, we're using the AI Model Passport, which is a tool produced at Ford from other projects, and we have changed that, we have enhanced that during the FAITH project, for semi-automated collection of metadata for a system. What is the AI Model Passport? Obviously is a tool taking into account traceability, transparency, reusability, and trustworthiness information. We have deployed that on a cloud infrastructure. Previously, the HPC infrastructures used in Europe were mentioned, but Ford has its own infrastructure. It's called Precious for doing such things. But finally, what we're doing for that, we're keeping track and maintain all the relevant pieces of information about the data and the AI machine learning models that we're using. So it's like a repository that finally produces a human readable report, and this is used as a feed, to the main tools of Faith TAF. And of course, this applies, to all lifecycle phases. AI Passport was expanded to be used in all AI phases. And here you can see how we assess the bias, for example, the model bias. How do we assess the data bias with the tools that I mentioned before? And actually, this provides data for an AI model that we provide in all the phases that we have for the life cycle of the system. Of course, in order to mitigate specific trustworthiness-related risks, and if we have the risks, then we have the data bias assessment, the AI model bias, the synthetic data generation for bias mitigation, the data privacy assessment, the uncertainty quantification for model robustness. And actually, we have tools in order to mitigate those risks that we have developed. And those tools are the DBDM, an open source toolkit for data bias detection and mitigation, very useful and is related, as I mentioned before, in fairness. This is a Python-based toolkit for the detection and mitigation always of databases, and we're detecting variations, as you can see that. We have the Mandala, the measure post-training data and model bias, and actually we're collecting, let's say, data and about, biases in the data or from biases introduced by the classification, the prediction algorithms. And this is something located in our GitHub. It is also developed in Python. And we have the data privacy assessment, the DPA here, where we can see is a suite of metrics for data privacy assessment, privacy risks and utility measures. And actually is about data sets and data before and after anonymization. And actually it evaluates the effectiveness of data anonymization techniques. And of course, we're using synthetic data generation for data privacy and data mitigation. And in those cases, we have to look in data bias mitigation and data privacy assurance. This is how, why we're using synthetic data. And this is a major question for those people that they believe that they have to use synthetic data instead of fragmented data and so on. Actually, this is an API for synthetic data generation that we're using in FAIR. And of course, we are using the UProB, an uncertainty probabilistic information. And actually, this is based, let's say it's a modular approach, and we import several files in order to do the probabilistic estimation, the uncertainty probabilistic estimation, for validation and reliability of the AI system. Now, the major question that Maria was asking me, if TAF can be used by other R&D projects. Because, we're building something which is a methodology. We're building something that can be useful in order to evaluate trustworthiness and also to mitigate trustworthiness. We can see that we can use the TAF as an early risk identification and assessment tool, which actually proactively we can identify risks. By mapping all those AI components and potential impacts in that case, because researchers usually are working on impacts, we can identify potential risks and we can develop a system based on the design. And then to take the appropriate mitigation strategies. To have that when, we invest our resources when we're doing the development of the system. And of course, apart from incorporated TAF in the AI development, during the design and the development, we can use actually when we're deploying that systems, minimizing the potential harm and maximizing the societal benefits. Maybe using TAF, you can lower your risk, but this is of question that should be tested and validated during our project. Also, we can, FAIR provides through TAF a common language and framework for discussing AI risks among researchers, developers, and stakeholders. It's not a fragmented approach. And finally, it provides continuous monitoring and improvement during, an R&D project or developing such a system for commercial purposes. Okay, there are several challenges that we have to see, and also those challenges sometimes are limitations. First of all, the complexity of AI systems. The in-context operation of an AI system. The data management systems, which is related with data quality, privacy, and security, and also subjectivity in risk assessment, which is the most important one. Because sometimes, the risk assessor who has the knowledge to do the assessment of risks at the beginning, the first phase, not the risk value calculation, because this can be done by TAF, but at the beginning, it might be subjective. And this is a problem that we have to overcome during the phase implementation. In order to test, and I will be very brief on that last presentation of my talk, to test the TAF, we have 7 use cases in different domains, because we like to present something which is very general, very applicable, and actually we have to produce dedicated risk profiles. For each application, from media to transportation, education, and healthcare, we have dedicated risk profiles. So each sector in the future must produce a risk profile. And if you go to a subsector, then you have to see how this can be modified in order to use DAF. We have the media here, and actually this is very important because we are addressing disinformation, the fake news that we mentioned before. Transportation, and actually here we're addressing the use of smart cameras in order to control transportation for safety of the patients. We address the education because usually it's a learning companion, AI is a learning companion for STEM education. And actually we're testing a system that already exists. It consists by the authoring tool, the Plato, and the dashboard in education in several schools. The LSP number 4 is related to underwater drones, robotics here. Usually, they recognize targets and actually they can understand what is the problem in underwater, especially in ports when you can see a clean port, let's say, and actually they can detect objects and so on. In this application, we're testing our TAF system. In industrial processes, especially in wastewater treatment, for example, to predict nitrate remaining in wastewater, following a treatment, taking into account all the variations that are coming from the environment, the time that is used, and the human involvement, and so on. And actually, this is where we're testing again the LSP. In healthcare, in the automatic prostate anatomy segmentation tool, which is a tool that is widely used and was produced during another project that we're running in fourth, which is related to prostate cancer, and actually this is used by the flagship EUKM project in the European Commission, where fourth participates, and also in active aging, where we like to collect data from people living, isolated, and some data might indicate potential faults, actually to protect and help them. So in all those cases, we're creating now risk profiles and we're trying, let's say, to make the validation of the TAF tool. I'm repeating, the TAF, is a human-centric risk assessment and actually a structured framework to address those issues, to address through risks the trustworthy of AI systems. We apply that in diverse critical sectors. Finally, we like to provide the users with an operational playbook for continuous assessment and improvement of AI trustworthiness, of AI models or system trustworthiness, and minimizing the harms that those systems can create, to our society, to the humans. With this, I would like to close my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Maria, I hope that was in time. Okay.
You were on time. Thank you very much for that. And I'm really impressed about your project, to say the truth. And I wonder, all these tools that you are creating and checking now, first of all, TAF, after the end of the project, will be available and they will be run by whom? By you, by the university, by Forth, or it will become a autonomous tool that someone has to pay for this. I don't know.
Okay. The methodology TAF, this is a methodology, will be public offered, by Forth, of course. Forth is the coordinator of the project. And then for the tools, someone might ask for research purposes at always free, but for commercial purposes, we'll find a framework to provide those also to the people that are developing tools. We face this problem many times, Maria, and actually Forth now participates in flagship projects like EUKIM. EUKIM, is a healthcare data space for cancer imaging. So you have all the data there, and then you have several tools in order to be used by your tools that you are developing as a researcher, as a company, and so on to be tested. So we have this mentality, and hopefully we'll provide these tools soon after the end of the project, to work and also provide guidance to those that they like to apply those tools in the future. For example, Future AI is a questionnaire-based tool to validate the trustworthiness of your AI system that is available. This has been created by a team, a group of experts, and Forth is one of participating organization, is available through online. I mean, if you search Future AI, you will find that. This Passport AI is something that is already offered by Forth and our team, internally at Forth. And there are other people that they are using that. Of course, we're expanding, we're improving the tools and so on, and always we're working, to have optimized tools.
Very good. Are there other questions or someone has something to say? I can't see any raised hands. So if it is the case, I would like...
Maria,
Yeah.
one of the things that I should mention, this is not, the result of at Forth of one team. This is a result of common, efforts coming from both the Biomedical Research Institute and the Institute of Informatics, of Computer Science. So, in order to make such things and to make such approaches, even, it's we are engineers and we like to have, input from the other teams. And we'll be happy to share everything with our other teams at Forth in order to contribute in the improvement with needs, opinions, and maybe testing of what we're doing in faith.
So I think that we can end here this seminar. I would like to thank Michalis and Dimitris for their participation. It was very, very useful. I have to admit that in the beginning some things were sound very Chinese for me. But after the presentation of the project as well, I think that I have a more clear vision about this, about what this IE can do, and especially in very sensitive areas like medicine, for example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Michaeli.
Dimitri.
Okay, thanks the others. Okay, see you.
See you soon. Yeah. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice week.
Bye-bye.